It's always a struggle to find exactly where the best light is. That's definitely not it. Whenever I'm away from the A-frame setup, it's like starting from scratch. I guess it's really hard to beat just diffused white curtains as far as lighting goes. Yeah, guess that'll have to do. This teeny tiny little mic. Bear with me, I hope the audio sounds okay. So I just wrapped up a really long podcast this morning with some great guys. The podcast is called Cinemate. I think they're primarily videographers, but you should definitely check it out. They had me on to kind of briefly go over what my main topic is going to be at an upcoming conference. The conference is called Thrive. If you live in or are able to travel to either Brighton or Glasgow, Thrive is a photography conference that's happening in both locations, 2 days each, third week this March. You can find a link with more details and how to register and all the specifics in the description of this video. As we were talking about all the different pieces of software and tools that I use that leverage AI in my workflow, I realized I changed something really small that's made a big difference since originally trying Aftershoot, which is my preferred AI culling app. Small thing I'm about to show you that's made a huge difference combines the output of Aftershoot with this tiny little controller and a piece of software called Joymapper. So I have another link in the description you can use if you want to see exactly what this controller is and how I set it up to cull wirelessly with no lag in Lightroom. Super easy setup. I love this joystick in particular. The size of it and the clickiness of the buttons are just perfect for me. I have like 5 of these floating around everywhere, so I always have one near me. So, okay, jumping onto my computer, diving into Aftershoot. I'm not going to go over the exact settings and how I use Aftershoot. I have other videos for that, but just realize that what I'm about to show you has already been run through Aftershoot, and everything that Aftershoot selected as a good picture that it's choosing to be included, it flags green. So we're going to look at this wedding from 12/4/2021. I took about 10,000 images, 1,800 of which were from my second shooter, and I'm sorting them all with the color green. That is what Aftershoot deemed an included picture. It's best to do anything culling related in library mode, by the way. So we're in library mode here. I can look at all the original photos that are just color coded based on Aftershoot's other flags, like blurry pictures, duplicate photos. I use a purple and a yellow to establish that. But the small thing that I did that made a big difference was related to toggling on and off the green filter. So of course, once I start looking at what Aftershoot decided to include, I still tighten up the cull a little bit from there. Personally, I do that by flagging what I ultimately want to edit, which will usually get sent off to Imagen AI for AI editing, and then deliver to my client. So anything that's flagged, it's probably going to be edited and delivered to my clients. So using this tiny little controller and the app called Joystick Mapper, the interface is really, really basic and actually a little bit confusing if the first time you use it. After you've paired your controller over Bluetooth, you can jump into Joystick Mapper, hit this little icon to edit your preset. And this is where you can basically enable scanning for any inputs and then just press a button on your controller. So I hit the B button. That identified it as button number 0, so that's great. And what I'm going to map that button to do is actually a mouse button click. If you break this out, you can have your options of what you want Joystick Mapper to do. I'm going to say mouse button 0, so main click, basically the left click. I actually already had this made, so it's in here twice. I'm going to delete the one I just demoed for you, but here it is. Button, every time I hit button 0, which is button B, when I hit the controller, it's going to simulate a left click mouse button. This is the easiest way. Oh, one small thing. In Joystick Mapper, once you've saved and closed and saved your edits, you need to check mark this box in order for it to work. A ton of people messaged me saying, yeah, I downloaded it and it's not responding. It's completely unresponsive. The reason is this isn't checkmarked. So make sure that's checkmarked to use that preset. So here's what I do. I permanently sort by green. As I go along, tapping with my little controller, if this is all set up the same way I have mine, I really don't need to touch the computer at any stage. But as I'm going along, sometimes I want to see maybe just another option, just to see if Aftershoot left out something else that is worth delivering. And I can do that without having to touch my computer by keeping my mouse hovering over the green and now hitting the left button, which simulates a mouse click. It toggles that green on and off. So essentially I can expand and look at all the other color options, yellow, purple, just to double check that there's nothing else from that moment that I want, and then collapse it
right on demand. So that's it. That one small thing makes a huge difference in my speed and efficiency without having to use my trackpad or touch my computer to double check that aftershoot didn't leave out some better option, which occasionally it does. It's kind of annoying. You have to keep your mouse floating over the green thing, but I couldn't find any other way using keyboard shortcuts to toggle the green filter on and off. Maybe there's a way to do that. If you know that, let me know in the comments. I would love to implement that, but this works just fine. Float your mouse over the green, you can toggle that on and off, collapse it, and continue on your way. Once I'm done flagging all my favorites, I sort specifically by everything that I flagged. I package that up in a temporary external catalog, and I send that over to Imagen AI to have their magical editing done. I re-import it, and then I'm done with this controller. I switch over to Better Touch Tool, which I have another link in this description where I've mapped really specific keys on my keyboard for all of the edits that I do in the develop panel. So that's it. It's a really small thing. Sometimes those tiny small things can actually make a huge deal in your workflow. But I can tell you, having done 4 or 5 full weddings edited and delivered using this little mouse hovering over the green filter button, it makes a huge difference. So please give it a try, especially if you already use a little controller for culling. I will swear by this until the day I die. I absolutely love it. As always, thank you so much for your attention. Let me know if you have any questions at all, and I'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.